The sky was clear over the quiet farming colony of Duskfield. The suns were setting, painting the fields gold and red. People were finishing their day's work, cleaning tools and preparing for evening rest. But then, something strange happened. A loud boom echoed across the valley. It didn't sound like thunder. It sounded like something breaking the sky. All heads turned upward. A streak of fire was cutting through the clouds, fast and burning. Children screamed. Farmers ran inside. Old defense alarms, long silent, suddenly began to blink red. One man, a retired scout named Owen, grabbed his binoculars. What he saw made his hands shake. "It's not a meteor," he whispered. The object crashed into the nearby forest, shaking the ground. Birds flew away. Dust rose, high. Within minutes, the local patrol was rushing toward the crash site. Owen followed against the warnings. Something inside him said this was no normal event. The patrol found the object half buried in the dirt. It was smooth and black, shaped like a pod. Symbols covered its side, glowing faint red. The metal didn't match any human design. It was cold to the touch but didn't seem damaged. There were no doors, no windows. Just one red line running down the center. Then, without warning, the pod clicked and the line opened. A hiss of cold gas escaped. The patrol backed away, raising weapons. A small shape slowly rolled out. It wasn't human, it was a child, barely 3 feet tall, with dark gray skin and glowing silver eyes. It looked weak, tired, scared. Everyone froze. "What is that?" one patrol officer whispered, but Owen stepped forward. His eyes locked on something printed on the side of the pod. It wasn't English, but he had seen this kind of writing during the war. He read aloud, slowly. "Property of the Deathspawn. Do not touch, do not engage." Silence followed. One patrol officer lowered his weapon. "Deathspawn? That's just a myth." Owen's face turned pale. "No, it's real. I saw what they did in the Fringe Wars. Planets turned to dust. Fleets vanished. If this thing belongs to them, we're all in danger." The alien child coughed and tried to sit up. It looked around at the humans. Its eyes were not cold. They were full of fear. It raised one hand and passed out. Owen stepped closer. "We can't leave it here. If they come looking and don't find it, they'll destroy us," another officer finished. After much debate, the patrol agreed to keep the incident secret, for now. The child was taken to a hidden barn outside town. Only a few trusted people were told. A woman named Mara, known for helping wounded animals, took the child in. She didn't care where it came from. She just saw a scared, sick child. The alien didn't speak for days. It barely moved. But slowly, with food and warmth, it began to recover. It watched everything, how humans moved, spoke, laughed. It tried to copy them. One night, Mara heard soft footsteps. She found the child standing outside looking at the sky. Stars shimmered above. The child pointed up. Mara asked gently, "Is your home out there?" The child looked at her. Then for the first time it spoke. "Gone." Just one word, but it carried pain like a deep wound. Mara sat beside the child. "You're safe here." But far above, something shifted. In deep space, at the edge of the galaxy, massive ships moved through the void. Their hulls were black as shadow. Their engines left no heat. Their shapes looked more like creatures than machines, and they were heading toward the human colony. The Deathspawn had noticed. They always noticed. Back on the planet, the humans didn't know what was coming, but the child did. That night it didn't sleep. It simply stared at the stars, waiting, and in its mind, a voice echoed, a deep, dark voice from across space. "Our blood, our legacy. You left the path. Now we come." The quiet before the me. Roar the stars began to disappear. Not all at once, but slowly, like someone was blowing out candles in the sky. One by one, the brightest lights above the colony of Duskfield faded. It wasn't natural, it wasn't clouds. The night was clear. Something was blocking the stars. Owen stood outside his cabin, staring up with a sick feeling in his stomach. He had seen this before. Not during peace, but during war. Long ago. Before the military told everyone to forget. Before they buried the truth. Ships. Huge ones. Moving without sound. Invisible to radar. But their shadows covered the sky. The Deathspawn were here. But they didn't attack. Not yet. The alien child had changed. Its gray skin had darkened, like metal cooling in air. Its eyes no longer glowed bright. They shimmered low, like embers in ash. It was quiet, always watching. It never cried, never laughed, but it had begun to learn. It spoke better now. Simple words. Questions. Why do you feed me? What is kindness? Why do humans smile? Mara smiled at the last one. Because it means hope. The child didn't reply. It only looked at her, like it was trying to understand something it had never seen before. 3 days after the stars began to vanish, the colony received a signal. Not from Earth, not from any known channel. The message was short. No voice. Just a pulsing symbol on screen. A black claw, holding a broken planet. Owen's face turned white. It's them. They're warning us. They're not firing. Why not? The mayor asked. Owen looked at the child. Because they want something back. In the barn, the child sat still as the humans debated. Maybe we give it back, said one farmer. Send it out into the desert. Let them pick it up and leave. They won't leave, Owen said sharply. They never leave survivors. If they're waiting, it means they're watching. But why leave a child here in the first place? Mara asked. The answer came from the child itself. I was left on purpose. Everyone turned to it. It had never spoken during a meeting. Before the child stood, eyes dim but calm. I was broken, weak. I felt fear. My kind do not allow fear. So they left me. Owen stepped forward. To die? The child nodded. Or to change? Silence fell. Far above, orbiting in the black, the Deathspawn fleet sat still. No movement, no signals, just massive ships in formation like statues of war waiting for someone to make a mistake. Then something terrifying happened. One of Earth's nearby outposts, Colony 9, sent a distress call. Screaming, gunfire, static, then silence. Gone, erased in seconds. The message had only one clear image before it ended. A black figure walking through fire, its eyes glowing silver. Exactly like the child. Back in Duskfield, panic spread. We're next. Burn the creature. They'll kill us all. A mob formed outside the barn. Mara stood between them and the door, arms wide. This child is not your enemy. Owen aimed his old plasma rifle at the sky. We have to think smart. That attack wasn't random. It was a message. The child opened the door and walked outside. Everyone went silent. It looked at the crowd and said only one thing. I don't want to become like them. Suddenly, every communicator in the colony lit up. Another signal. But this one was different. A deep, alien voice filled every speaker. Low, cold, and slow. You raised what we rejected. We now watch. We now decide. Show us your worth before the stars go dark. That night, as the people of Duskfield slept uneasily, the child stood alone on the roof of the barn. It looked up at the stars. The sky was darker now. More stars had vanished. More ships above, and in the shadows of orbit, something stirred. Bigger than any ship. Older than any machine. A shape that didn't belong in this universe. The Deathspawn had brought their ancient judge, and time was running out. The truth about the species, The power grid flickered across the colony. Lights buzzed. Screens glitched. For one long minute, the entire town went silent, as if the planet itself had stopped breathing. Then, every device in Duskfield displayed the same thing, a single eye, cold, metallic, watching, no words, just the eye, and then it blinked. Owen smashed his communicator. "That wasn't a broadcast," he said. "That was a scan. They're looking into our systems, into us." In the barn, the child clutched its head. It fell to its knees, trembling, not from pain, but from something deeper. "Fear. I feel them," the child whispered. "They are near and angry." That night, Owen pulled out a sealed metal box from under his floor. Inside was a worn data tablet, locked, encrypted, and forbidden by Earth Command. He hadn't opened it in 20 years. Not since the Fringe massacres. He powered it on and called Mara and the others. "You want to know what the Deathspawn really are?" he said. "Then watch." The screen showed old, hidden footage. A burned moon. Crushed fleets. Whole cities turned to dust. Without a sound, and then they appeared. Deathspawn soldiers. Tall, sleek, terrifying. No mouths, no emotion. Moving as one. Weapons fused into their arms. Ships that grew like living things. Their armies didn't march. They flowed, like shadows across fire. "They don't fight to win," Owen explained. "They fight to erase, to cleanse. Their goal isn't conquest, it's silence. They call it the Great Stillness, a galaxy without war, without noise, without life." Someone whispered, "How do you stop them?" "You don't," Owen replied. "You pray they don't see you as noise." The footage ended with something worse, an image of the same black pod that landed in Duskfield, but opened in another world. And inside it, another child, like the one now among them. But this one didn't cry. It screamed, and the planet burned. Owen looked at the current child. "You were designed for war, weren't you?" The child stood quiet. Then it nodded once. "Yes, but I feel different now." Far above, something massive began to move. The ancient judge ship, hidden in the Deathspawn fleet, activated. Its shape was impossible, folding space around it, warping stars near its hull. The ground on Duskfield shook. Suddenly all life signals across the system dropped. No birds, no bugs, not even microbes. The stars had gone still. "They've begun the trial," Owen said, breathless. "The what?" Mara asked. The child answered. "They will test if I've changed, if I've learned what it means to be human. If I pass, they will leave. If I fail, they erase the system." But the Deathspawn didn't send soldiers this time. They sent something worse. A voice. It came from inside people's heads, a low, sharp whisper echoing in dreams, vibrating in bones. "Prove that you are not noise." The next day, a group of children playing near the edge of the colony vanished. No signs, no tracks, just silence. Search teams found their toys, their footprints, and symbols burned into nearby trees. Symbols matching those on the Deathspawn pod. Why would they hurt children? Someone cried. "They didn't," the alien child said softly. "They're not dead. They're being watched, tested, like me." Panic began to grow. The colony leaders voted. Earth Command refused to help. Too risky, too unknown. Some wanted to surrender the child. Others wanted to kill it before the Deathspawn could decide. The child didn't run. Instead, it stood in front of the people and did something strange. It bowed. I asked. "Not for safety?" it said, voice steady, glowing eyes dim. I ask. "For time. To show I am not what they made me." That night, something new appeared in the sky. A smaller ship. Different. Brighter. Not part of the fleet. It sent only one word. "Remember." Owen stared at it in shock. "That's not Deathspawn tech. That's human. A secret." A hidden project, buried long ago, and now, awakened. In the shadows of space, the judge stirred again. The final test was near, and this time, the whole colony would be judged. The first strike. The sun never rose that morning. The sky stayed black, blacker than night, like something was pressing down on the planet from above. It wasn't just shadow. It was presence. The colony of Duskfield felt it. Every heartbeat slowed. Every breath felt heavier. Something had arrived. At the edge of the atmosphere, a Deathspawn assault vessel uncloaked. No warning, no signal. The ship was long, like a blade made of shadow. Its surface shimmered like water, but it reflected nothing. Inside, there were no pilots, no crew, just one single entity. A hunter. Down in the colony, alarms screamed. Owen ran to the defense tower and looked at the sky. His stomach dropped. "It's not a fleet," he said. "It's a message." The hunter ship wasn't just there to fight. It was there to test. In the barn, the child awoke, gasping. Its skin shimmered, glowing faint silver. "They're here, for me." "You don't have to face them," Mara said. "You're just a child." "No," the child replied. "I was made for this. But now, I choose why." It walked out into the open. The ship began to descend. As the hunter approached, the colony's old defense cannons activated. Owen barked orders. "Charge all railguns, get ready to fire." But the weapons locked, and then froze. The ship had hacked them without touching them. "It's toying with us," Owen muttered, and then it fired. A single energy beam sliced through the valley. No sound, no heat, just disintegration. A quarter-mile of farmland turned to dust in 1 second. People screamed. Buildings shook. The ground cracked. The message was clear. You are nothing. And then something impossible happened. The alien child stepped forward and raised its hand. The hunter ship paused. It sent a thin blue beam, more focused, like a scanner, toward the child. Instead of dodging, the child walked into it. Its body lifted into the air. Everyone held their breath. The child's eyes glowed bright white. And then, the beam reversed. The hunter ship shook. Panels burst open. Black smoke hissed from its hull. Something inside screamed, not metal, not machine, but something alive. The child floated downward, landing softly. The entire colony stared in silence. "What did you just do?" Owen asked. "I showed it fear," the child whispered. But it wasn't over. The ship, damaged and furious, dropped from the sky, directly toward the colony. "Get back," Owen yelled. "It's going to crash into us." But the child stood still. Then it raised both hands. Time seemed to slow. The ship halted. Inches above the ground, cracks spread across its hull. Its core began to glow red, overheating. It was about to explode. The child turned to the sky and screamed one word in an ancient, forbidden language. No one knew what it meant. But the hunter ship did. It powered down. And then, it shattered. Dust. Gone. The colony was silent. The child collapsed, exhausted. Mara ran to catch it. "Why didn't you destroy them earlier?" she asked. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," the child whispered. "Not even them." Up in orbit, the judge had seen everything, and for the first time in eons, it moved. A long, deep pulse echoed through space. Not a weapon, not a command, a summon. Something else was coming, the final test, and Earth wasn't ready. The message: the dust had barely settled. Fires still burned in the fields. People were still crying, still shaking. But the skies were quiet again, for now. The hunter ship was gone, and the child was asleep. Inside the colony command center, Owen stood in front of the shattered defense screens. Half the systems were still down. The damage had been precise. Surgical. The Deathspawn hadn't wanted to kill them all. They had wanted to watch, and now, they had seen. Mara stood over the child, wiping the ash from its small face. Its skin flickered, gray, then silver, then dim. The power it used was too much. Its body couldn't hold it long. Owen spoke quietly. It's trying to be human, but the more human it becomes, the more its kind turns against it. Just then, every screen in the colony turned on, but not from Earth, not from Deathspawn, from something in between. The signal was full of static at first. Then it cleared. A single word appeared. Remember. Then a face. It was human. Old, wrinkled, dressed in an Earth command coat. But his eyes, they were not from Earth. They glowed faint gold. He spoke slowly. Project Echo has reached critical point. You have something they fear. Not because it is strong, but because it chose. Owen leaned closer. Who are you? I was one of the first to meet the Deathspawn, the man said. I was there when we realized they were not just weapons. They were broken children. Children raised to destroy, not feel. But one of them didn't want to obey. He looked at the child sleeping nearby. He is the first to refuse the code. Suddenly the signal cracked. Dark symbols crawled across the screens like claws tearing into the message. And then, a second voice appeared. Low, slow, cold. You teach it mercy, but mercy is noise. You teach it love, but love is weakness. We come to erase the teacher. Outside the skies boiled. A shape began to form beyond orbit. A ship, but far too big. It covered the horizon. It blocked not just light, but time. The stars behind it flickered, slowed, and vanished. The judge had spoken. Now came the enforcer, a ship not built to fight, a ship built to end civilizations. Inside the barn, the child woke up, eyes wide, glowing brightly. They sent that? The child whispered. No one survives it. No one ever has. Mara grabbed its hand. Then maybe, no one ever tried something different. The child looked at her, softly. It said, will you still protect me? Owen stepped forward. We won't just protect you, we'll stand with you. In that moment, the child did something strange. It smiled, for the first time. Then from its chest a light burst out, a symbol, the same one that appeared on the Earth command screens earlier. Owen stared. That's not Deathspawn code. That's ours. That's human. The child stood tall, brighter now, its voice no longer small. I have remembered. The enforcer entered orbit. It began charging its core. Time slowed. Air thickened. Gravity trembled. Animals dropped. People fell to their knees. A voice, massive and ancient, rang in their minds. You had your chance. The trial ends now. But then, the sky split. A light from deep space. Not Deathspawn. Not human. Something older. Something forgotten. A third signal joined the war. And with it came one message. You are not alone. The judgment. The sky cracked like glass. It didn't break. It fractured. Ribbons of light swirling through the upper atmosphere as if reality itself was being pulled apart. One moment the stars were still. The next, they twisted into spirals. Verbio. Enforcer had begun its final sequence. The colony was collapsing. Gravity surged, then dropped. Buildings shook, then floated. People screamed as power lines snapped and oxygen levels dipped. The Enforcer didn't need to fire weapons. It just needed to exist. Its presence alone was destroying the laws of nature around it. Inside the command center, Owen grabbed the railings as screens exploded one by one. This is it, he yelled. The judgment. They've made their decision. But we didn't fail, Mara cried. The child changed. And then, the child entered the room, floating. Not walking, floating, like gravity no longer applied. To it. Light swirled around its skin like stars circling a black hole. Its eyes glowed white, not cold, not angry, but awake. I understand now, the child said softly. They aren't judging me, they're judging you. Everyone froze. "What do you mean?" Owen asked. The child turned to the screen where the enforcer loomed above. "I am the test, but not just for me, for humans, for the idea of mercy, emotion, change. They left me here to see what your kind would do." The child pointed upward. "They never believed you'd care." And then, the judge finally spoke again. Its voice shattered every glass panel, rattled bones, and echoed across minds. Not just in the colony, but across space. "The child is proof of deviation. Humanity passed what we could not." But not all Deathspawn agree. Suddenly, several ships broke away from the main fleet. Rebels, not part of the trial, not following the judge. They were Deathspawn who still clung to the old way, erase all noise. They opened fire. Plasma beams streaked across the sky. The colony's defense systems were offline. Power dead, shields gone. A direct hit would mean extinction. But the first blast never landed, because the light from deep space arrived. It was not a ship. It was a being, a construct of light and sound, not flesh, not machine. It wrapped around the colony in a shimmering shell. The plasma fire hit the shield and disappeared. Absorbed like smoke in wind, a new voice entered their minds. Gentle, calm. "Long ago we taught the first species how to feel. We watched your kind. We hoped, and now we answer." Owen's eyes widened. "It's one of the Starborn," Mara whispered. "I thought they were a myth." "No," the child said. "They were our makers, and our final hope." The Starborn spoke again. "You taught what we could not. Let this child speak for both kinds. Let the war end, or begin forever." The judge responded. The enforcer halted. Time bent again, but not from weapons, from choice. In a sudden flash, the child was lifted into space. No ship, no suit, just light holding it in a protective field. It floated between the judge and the rebels. The rebels fired again, but this time the child caught the blasts with bare hands. They didn't hurt it. They changed color, red to gold, then vanished. The rebels turned to run. But the judge spoke once more. "You failed the silence." And with that, the rebel ships were erased, not exploded, not destroyed, just removed. The child returned to the ground. Everyone watched in silence. "I am no longer theirs," the child said, "and not fully yours. But I know what I am now. I am proof." The judge's ships began to leave orbit. One by one, they vanished into the dark. But before the last ship disappeared, it sent one final message to Earth. "You raised what we feared. Now, we must become something new." And then, everything was quiet again. No beams, no ships, no cracks in the sky, just peace. But the child looked up one last time. They're not the only ones watching. The choice. The stars were calm again. No weapons, no shadows, no judges. But the silence wasn't peace. It was the silence before a new beginning, or a final ending. The colony was still. Survivors walked through the ruins, helping one another. Children held on to parents. Old soldiers held on to hope. And high above them all, the child stood alone, on the edge of the canyon, eyes lifted to the stars. Its skin no longer shimmered. Its powers no longer pulsed. It looked human, but everyone knew it was not. Not entirely. Owen approached carefully. "You okay, kid?" The child didn't turn. "I was made to erase life, but you gave me something I didn't understand." "Mercy?" Owen asked. "No," the child whispered. "A name." The Starborn had left. The judge had gone silent. But now, a decision had to be made. The galaxy had seen what humans could do. They had taken in the deadliest species' broken child, and raised it with kindness, pain, and choice. Now, every species across space watched and waited. Would this creature become humanity's greatest gift, or the universe's greatest threat? Earth Command sent a ship. They came with scientists, diplomats, soldiers. They wanted to take the child, study it, protect it, control it. They called it a living weapon. But when they tried to scan the child, their machines failed. Their data turned to static. The child looked at them, not with hate, but with quiet sadness. "You're afraid of what I might become," it said, "but none of you asked what I want to be." The colony stood behind it, not because they were forced, but because they believed. This child, once dropped like trash by a death machine race, was now the bridge between life and destruction. Then came the message. From the edge of the galaxy. Unknown origin. Unknown language. But the meaning was clear. They are not the only ones made for war. If yours can be changed, maybe ours can too. Mara's eyes filled with tears. It's not just about you anymore. It's about everyone. The child faced the colony. It spoke clearly. I was born in silence. I was trained to destroy. But here, I learned noise can be beautiful. I will not return to the Deathspawn. I will not hide from Earth. I will stand between them all to protect what is becoming. The stars pulsed. Ships across. The galaxy listened. And for the first time in recorded history, no one fired. In orbit, a new station was built. Not a weapon, not a lab, but a school, where once deadly species sent their young to learn what humans had unknowingly mastered: compassion, emotion, choice. The child became its first teacher. It never chose a name, because names were given. But all across space, beings began to call it something new: the bridge. And far away in a cold corner of the galaxy, an old Deathspawn warship powered down. Its captain, ancient and feared, looked into the stars and said, "Perhaps noise is not the enemy.